Justin Bochy, enrolled agent, partner at Calyx CPAs. I'm wearing a jacket. It's kind of cold in my office, so please don't judge me too harshly. The purpose of this video is to teach you how to bring in payroll data that was processed outside of payroll, outside of QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop, and then enter it as journal entries into QuickBooks Online and or QuickBooks Desktop. It's the same for either of those, only how you enter a journal entry, where you enter a journal entry is slightly different based on the platform. It's a rather lengthy conversation, but I'm going to try to do it very quickly so that this video, it doesn't end up taking too long. So I'm going to get right to it. I only can share one screen at a time, so I hope you can follow along. It should be pretty straightforward. Here is a payroll summary. I have edited, this is a real payroll summary, I've edited it so that it didn't have identifying factors. And it's important, the important part of this is to understand what you're looking at. This is a payroll summary by employee generated out of something that kind of looks like QuickBooks Online, but it may not be. I'm not sure exactly what software prepared this payroll summary, but it's the same thing. Payroll summary by employee for the payroll of August 14th. So you should be able to get this information from any payroll processor, any payroll software. The total pay, this is gross pay. Sometimes the payroll summary will say gross wages. Total pay is gross wages. Now, whether or not these are employees or hourly or salary or whatnot, that's for you to know. But the important things for us to know is total pay is gross pay. Employer taxes is just the employer FICA taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment tax, maybe state transit tax, other taxes that are not being withheld from the paycheck on behalf of the employee. So that is taxes withheld. So you get the total gross wages minus the taxes withheld, which are FICA, Social Security, state, federal, and state income tax withheld. That's what that total is. And then the result is this net check. So when you are getting a bank feed and you see these debits to the bank feed, and they're either one at a time, you see net check, net check, net check. And then you also then see, or you see them all lumped together, those are net checks. Those aren't gross. That means it's not the expense that the business is accumulating. That does not represent the expense that is accumulated. Oftentimes, those payments are understated in terms of what was actually paid to these employees because the taxes are withheld. So that net does not reflect those taxes. Now, those taxes are paid with the employer taxes. And so often when you see that bank feed and you see the net checks and then you see the employer taxes are overstated and the net checks are understated. So they need to be entered into your system properly in order for you to get the proper data. Now, it's the easiest thing to do, and what I would highly recommend most people doing, is just putting those to payroll expense, because the combination of the taxes withheld and the employer taxes that were paid plus the net checks that were paid in combination gives you the total amount of expense that the business accumulated for that payroll. And if you put it all under payroll expense, that is actually what cost the business that, that money to run that payroll for that period. Now, some people want to break it out with so that's like kind of the low end of the spectrum in terms of complexity. The next step is, okay, some people want to know what is my exact gross wages? And in fact, what is my hourly gross wages and my salary gross wages. And some people want to take out the officer wages, like often S Corps or C Corps will have, the owner will also have a salary. So now we kind of want to break it out like that. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And so now I can't refer to this report. Actually, you know what? I can refer to this report. I'm going to put it up on my big screen here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is go over to my QuickBooks. Okay, so I was experimenting with this earlier. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a journal entry. So all you have to do in order to create a journal entry is go to Add Journal Entry in QuickBooks Online, or up at the top bar, Company, Add Adjusting Journal Entry. And then you get this page, or it looks something like this. This is out of QuickBooks Online. I put in the date. I put in my preferred journal entry number. And then the next thing I do is you can put in all the gross wages. So this is an example that I did earlier. Gross wages, that actually, according to our journal entry, was $1,280.70. And then the employer taxes were actually $1,300. That was pretty close to that. Okay, so then the actual amount is $14,280. Okay, so what this represents is the total real gross wages cost, the total actual tax cost to the business. And then the next step is you put it to payroll liabilities. This is the important part. This is what people can get confused. Do not break it out between federal taxes due, state taxes due, FICA, Social Security, Medicare. If your software is syncing and it is downloading those transactions into your software, great. But don't try to journal entry them in. That's next to impossible. So the best way to do it is just lump all of the payroll wage and payroll tax expense to payroll liabilities, and voila, you have that. So that credits payroll liabilities, that increases payroll liabilities on your balance sheet. You're going to see then, as of 8/14, you're going to see wages expense, tax expense, the accurate amount there for that period. And then you're going to have this payroll liability balance, okay? Then you're going to pay then your bank feed's going to come through, if it hadn't already, and it's going to drop in the net checks, the tax payments, anything that's coming out of your bank account, and you're going to actually debit that to, because it's a debit, it's a credit on the bank account when you have an expense hitting the bank account, and then it's a debit to payroll liabilities, which will bring this back down. All right. So now if you want to break this out further, you can. So maybe I want to, let's see here. Maybe I want to do officer. So I got wages, and then I want to say payroll expense. Let's see here. Did I say salary? Salary wages. Okay. So now I want to do that, and then so one of my guys is on salary, the rest of them are not. Let's say Al is on salary. Oops, okay, I'm gonna take it out of gross, take his gross out of there. Okay, there we go. And I'm gonna put his gross right here. And I might even say, well, I'll include that next time. So Now I've broken it out of hourly. I'm going to call this hourly. Hourly. Come on now. Where is it? Hourly wages. Okay, now what I've done is like I've broken it hourly and salary. If you want to, you can also break out the employer taxes like that too. But you would have to call it employer hourly, employer tax hourly, employer tax salary. And then you can get an idea of what was your hourly wages versus your salary wages. Okay, so then I'm gonna, okay, so then you can even take it another step further. So this is an example that I did where I went ahead and put in on the same payroll, I went ahead and put Al in. Okay, and then I wanted to know, now you can do it by employee. Now, a payroll summary will do this. You don't need to do it. A payroll summary will do this. But if you want to look at it at a glance and you want to break it up between hourly versus salary employees, you can do it. You can do this. And you can also break out how much it cost you per employee. So what you do is you go hourly. I put in Al's gross to record payroll expense. I put in the name Al. QuickBooks may not allow you to set up them as an employee. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I just put a vendor. It's fine. Just put him down as a vendor. Doesn't hurt. Okay. Then I put in his employer taxes. His employer taxes were actually $180.39. Okay. And I'll go back and show you that again. What I'm looking at, the payroll wages, payroll summary. And then the rest, okay, so then I'm going to do the next guy. And the next guy is Ben, and he happens to be a hourly wage employee, and he cost me the total pay is $1,269. Then I put the name Ben under there, and then I go and I do the employer taxes. Okay, and I just do this over and over and over again for all of them until the whole payroll summary by employee is in there. By employee, both gross wages, which shows up on the total pay column, and the employer tax, which shows up on the employer tax column, until all of that information is in there. And then I put it all to payroll liabilities, just like this. This is the payroll. This is the journal entry. I do that. Oh, I'm sorry. So I have Al's hourly, but you get my drift. This is just an example. And then and this is what it looks like. And then when the bank feeds comes in, you again debit all of that money that's coming through the bank feed into payroll liability. All right. So then you can run a report. And maybe I want to know what my employer taxes are by employee. So then I run let me run a payroll. I'm going to go to profit and loss. I'm going to just go to 18. Just going to the date that I entered that in. Okay. Now here are my journal entries. Payroll expense, hourly wages. Ignore this one. This one, you know what? I'm going to delete this. This is one that I was using as an example. So I have 2 of them in there. So we don't want 2. We just want it one time. So here it is. here's my, so of course these would be much higher if I entered all of them, but you can see here's my salary wages, my hourly wages, and my taxes. And then if you want to see like, okay, what's my hourly, or actually, you know what, there's not enough people in there. So I'm going to go to employer taxes. I want to know how much each of these employees are costing me from this perspective. You can then change the columns. Change columns. I'm going to add vendor. Unfortunately, even though the thing says name, it won't come up, but it will come up if you say vendor. Run report, and then I'm going to go over to group my account. I'm going to or group by vendor, and then it's going to have Al and Ben, and that's what you want to do. You could just do under payroll expense, Al payroll, Ben payroll, Cassie payroll, etc. Under like, just make a separate account for them if you want to do that. But that's how you enter this journal entry. Remember, just one payroll liability. Don't break it out. Don't try to break it out between taxes on the balance sheet, because those go away as soon as that bank feed hits the bank account, and that happens so quickly after the payroll that you would just be making huge journal entries one after the other for no reason. Let's see here. What's some other things? If you really do have payroll liability, like you owe payroll because you haven't paid for whatever reason, you enter this in there, you enter these journal entries in here, and your payroll liability will reflect what you actually pay. Oh, it may not reflect exactly who you owe, but it will reflect a total amount of who you owe. And your payroll software should be able to tell you who you owe. You should know that. And if you really owe a lot of back taxes and stuff, then you're in kind of a little bit of trouble. Because if anybody that you don't want to owe, it's the government for payroll, because it's the worst. Like they'll come down on you hard and fast, and it's very costly. So it would be better to not pay other people, not employees, and you got to pay your employees, but your rent, don't pay your rent, don't pay your utilities, don't pay anything else until the payroll is caught up. And if you can't keep up with it, don't, you gotta lay them off. Don't find yourself behind on your payroll taxes. It's not a good thing. You can do it and you can get away with it, but if you end up going under and not being able to pay that, it's really hard to get out of versus just getting behind on your rent or something like that. Thank you, Justin Bochy, enrolled agent, partner at Calyx CPAs. If you need help with anything else, give us a call, 541-816-4483. And talk to you soon.